Well, hello again, everyone. Now, as I'm looking at this mayoral race in New York City, and Zoran Mandami is now the Democrat nominee who will run against Curtis Sliwa of the Republican Party and the incumbent independent Mayor Mike Adams. You gotta ask yourself, how is it when we haven't even hit the 25th anniversary of 9/11? Because this year is going to be 24 years. That New York City has nominated a Islamic communist nut job. Now I don't get it. Is this like the New York City version of Obama? A young guy. Actually, this one is actually pretty good looking. Yeah, and I'm secure my man here to say that. But how is it that a guy that could make Bill de Blasio look like a conservative, or I'm sorry, at least a moderate, win in New York City? I've been saying I think they deliberately ran Cuomo and built him up. So to make this guy Zandami win. I mean, we saw what Brad Nadler, the advocate, did last week, and trying to link arms with an illegal, and that failed. But then as Cuomo was climbing in the polls, the same people that propped him up is probably the same people who backstabbed him behind backstage and let her rip about all his scandals and everything, and just enough to make Zandami the winner. This is like the time Elliot Spitzer tried to run for New York City Controller after he was forced to resign as governor. Maybe we never hear from Cuomo ever again. Good. But as I'm realistic about how things work in the state, I've been living here my whole life, I am no fan of Mike Adams. But it's almost like you need him to win. Now, granted, I am more in line with Curtis Sliwa thinks, but let's face it, Curtis Sliwa is not going to win in New York City. For all you people say, well, no, Rudy Giuliani, Rudy Giuliani won when we didn't have a voter fraud problem. And if you don't think a voter fraud problem is a problem here in New York State, let me remind you how Kathy Hochul won governorship, despite the fact that 30% of the city vote went to Lee Zeldin, the Republican Party, and Hochul managed to win. George Pataki won 3 terms as Republican governor of New York and never got 30% of the vote. And that's a fact. So did the upstate people, did they come out in droves in Buffalo and maybe by the Canadian border to come out and for Kathy Hochul? As Schumer got over 8% of the vote in his reelection bid? Yeah, I'm not buying it. But if you look at the map the AP put out and on what districts Cuomo, Nadler, Zandami got, I know the stereotypical thing to think is that minorities put this guy in power. And there's some truth to that. But you know what Malcolm X once said? Be careful of the white liberal. They will do more harm to the minority, particularly black people, than they will help you. They will use you, they will fight for you, and make you feel inferior because they think they're superior. Now, conservatives, we won't fight for you. We're not. We'll be along right beside you fighting with you because We think you're capable of thinking on your own and doing things on your own. The liberal thinks you can't do anything. But if you look at how the vote went down, blacks and Hispanics actually voted for Cuomo over Zindami. Now, don't get me wrong. I can honestly tell you, I don't think blacks and Hispanics went to the voting booth with their fist pumping. Yeah, Cuomo, Cuomo, Cuomo. I'm sure it was one of these things. Oh, God. Oh. And probably told himself, better the devil I do know as opposed to the devil I don't know. And ironically, it was the white people that helped Zandami get in. You know who else helped Zandami get in? Which I will never understand. I don't get this. Jewish people. You go look up on the upper east side, upper west side of Manhattan. They all voted for Zandami. One of the biggest areas that people go to for PAC money. Voted for Zandami. Now, for all the people out there, well, you know, the Jews did create communism and all that stuff. Yeah, you know what? They did, you know. The Rothschilds, the central bankers, they created communism to make sure they stayed in power. They helped the Nazis. They fought against the Nazis because they threw away their central bank. Because if Hitler had not thrown away their central bank, who knows? And the other kind of surprising thing is Asians also helped Zandami win in New York City. Apparently, all those Chinese people that have come over here, I know they're not all Chinese. I'm sure we got some Japanese and some Koreans and some Vietnamese, haven't learned their lesson from communism over in China. I mean, I'm old enough to remember when I was watching videos of Moscow grocery stores full with shelves. No, I'm sorry, that never happened. I'm sure the ones in Cuba, no. That didn't work out there either. Venezuela, nope. Venezuela was a disaster. They went in and tried to eat the farm animals, not the farm animals, the zoo animals. North Korea, nope. They were running around trying to kill rats to survive to eat. Yeah, it hasn't worked. So low in Zandami's city-controlled grocery stores, free bus and subways, $3 minimum wage, getting about $20 billion in taxes off the rich, in which they'll call the U-Haul truck or the Ryder truck or the Penske truck and move out. Because apparently Zandami hasn't heard when Cuomo as governor and Hochul as governor, and as that mayor said, you know what, we're losing too many rich people, we're losing our tax base. As they continue to tax them anyway. Of course, closing Indian Point was a brilliant move. No, not only are we now short power, thank goodness, surprisingly, I think we only lost 5,000 people lost power over the week, heat wave here in New York City, as well as all the money in taxes Westchester County and New York State lost from not having them anymore. Another brilliant move. You just gotta ask yourself. These polls must be rigged. They have to be rigged. Or are the Chinese in a different way trying to collect on their debt and take over New York and California? I mean, who knows? I can only wonder, is New York City going to become the New York going to become the new London, where Islamists and communists take over, and you have a Pakistani Muslim named Sadiq Khan as your mayor. And ironically, you can ask yourself, why would the Jews support a candidate that wants them dead? Do they think being nice to the monster is going to get them anywhere? Because we know over in Israel and everywhere else they've been in the world, being nice to the one that wants you dead usually gets you dead. Keep the country in prayer. Please keep my home state of New York in prayer. Please keep my hometown, New York City, in prayer. Because I got news for you. For all you people that live up north in New York State or out west in central New York, Long Island, the Hudson Valley, if you think, well, what do I care about New York City? I don't live there. New York City, it affects the rest of the state. And what's going to happen is all those people that didn't vote for this are going to move out your way and probably vote the same way as they did in New York City, which means you're going to have a problem also. So then the only option is to leave the state. The problem is usually the libs follow you to wherever red state they're going to go to, and they're going to ruin that state also. They're like locusts. The left are like locusts. They eat and devour. They don't know what happened. They go to another red state, as they hate the red state, and vote to change it from the crap they came from anyway. God bless you all. It'll have to be this way. It has to get very dark before the light pierces through. We'll talk to you later.